Well, looks like it's time. It's been years since that terrible incident, when I was able to live, love, and laugh with an animated franchise I'd grown up with, only for that to be taken away. You ever just enjoy something so much that because of the terrible decisions by some nobody behind the scenes, they managed to screw it all up? Well, that was me with Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. A show that had great promise, but was ripped away by the terrible pacing, flanderizing the characters, and worst of all, they brought fucking Crow back!
NANI?! お前はもう死んでいる。
But that's not what we're talking about today, is it? Hi, hello, I'm Kamen, and I'm no stranger to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise, as you can tell from looking at my channel. And for this video, we're finally talking about the girls of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. If you've seen my full essay talking about the series in general, you know that I have a bit of an issue with the series as a whole. But in that video, I had elected to save my issues with the female characters for a much more focused one, and this is that video.
Brilliant! Brilliant!
Welcome, my friends. I'm Kamen, and this is the problems with Yu-Gi-Oh! Girls Arc 5. Spoilers for Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, so warning ahead. Also, while I'll be using the Japanese names, I will be using the English dub footage, and a good chunk of the names will be different. But English dub is honestly easier for me to skirt around the copyright bot, so meh. I believe one of the worst things you can do to a female character, especially in a form of media that is dominated by male characters like anime, is to have a strong beginning, but then you make them peter out. That is unfortunately what I can say about Yuzu Haragi, the main female lead of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. I am getting ahead of myself though, and I feel tired already. Yuzu Haragi, the female lead of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, and one of the most prominent of the lovingly titled Bracelet Girls. A childhood friend of the main protagonist, Yuya Sakaki, and the daughter of the owner of Yusho's dueling school, Yuzu is a very prominent duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. So much so that in the second episode of the series, Yuzu was actually able to win against the main character with her Melodious deck. Now, one can point out that Yuya had no idea what he was doing, since one of the earlier plots of the show was that there was a new form of summoning, pendulum summoning. And since he had no idea how it actually worked, Yuya screwed himself over, and that allowed Yuzu to take the win. That isn't to say that Yuzu is a bad duelist. In fact, she's probably one of the stronger female characters in Yu-Gi-Oh!, at least from a character writing point. Not to mention, she does have a significantly better dueling record than Yuya at the beginning of the series. After all, she is rather proactive in the story. The first time being after an event where the best character in the show, Sawatari, tried to steal Yuya's pendulum monsters, Yuzu actually recognizes his crew and follows them. She does confront Sawatari overhearing that he's going to get revenge on Yuya. I really wish she actually dueled here, but she didn't. Not a big deal.
It's best not to think about stuff.
Back on point, after that situation, in which ended up with Sawatari getting hurt by Yuto, the EXC's version of Yuya, the Yusho Dueling School was being targeted by the Leo Corporation, since Sawatari was a student at the Leo Dueling School, and they basically wanted revenge on that. This led to a small dueling competition, where the best 2 out of 3 duels would determine the fate of Yusho School. And in that regard, Yuzu was one of the duelists who would protect the school that her dad owned, and she lost.
That was really bad.
Now, I'm not going to harp on that, because this actually leads into a very good character development for Yuzu. Since she lost the game that could have let down not only her father, but everyone else she cares about, Yuzu elects to learn how to improve her dueling. And to do this, she learns how to use fusion. So for the next few episodes, we get scenes of her learning how fusion works from another character, Sora, a mysterious young man who has a skillful understanding of fusion. Now, it's well over the top, since it's not supposed to be that hard to use polymerization and use the right materials to make a fusion monster you want.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
But it's an anime about a card game, and it's fine to do that for the sake of it. And hey, to make things better, she actually grows as a duelist and defeats the same opponent that she lost to back in the Yusho School incident. And she did so by taking a risk, but showcased that she was willing to do whatever it took and protect her friends and family. It is not the deepest motivation. It was a motivation that was really good for a character though, and made Yuzu into a very dynamic person for me. So you have a character who realizes that they have a flaw, even if it is quite basic one for anime, and they actively do something to fix the issue and are pursuing it themselves. That's a great thing for a character, and it shows that they're willing to grow and learn from their past mistakes. Not to mention, Yuzu was already active proactive as a character and was willing to do what she could to help her friends. That's something that should be applauded for character writing, especially for a girl in Yu-Gi-Oh! Hell, it was actually parallel to the main character Yuya, who was actually trying to learn how his pendulum summoning worked and learned fusion summoning as well. So, what's the problem here? Well, there's a moment where things slowly begin to change for Yuzu.
I should have known dueling this guy was a mistake.
Come out, wherever you are! I commend you for evading me for this long, but let's face facts. We will sniff you out eventually, so give up. Come on, get out of the cold, and return with me to see the professor. Well, look what I found.
To give a little context for this scene, during a free-for-all tournament, Academia has begun to invading the standard dimension, and Yuzu is being chased by the fusion version of Yuya, Yuri.
Oh shit. There goes the planet.
There's nothing inherently wrong with the scene, mind you. It's perfectly fine to have a girl be afraid of some creep with weird eyebrows and even weirder hair. I'm highlighting that this is the moment where the writing for Yuzu began to change. Because later in this very same episode, Yuzu gets whisked away to the Synchro dimension with the Synchro version of Yuya, Yugo. It was then that the beginnings of Yuzu's evolution into damsel in distress happened.
Ow! That is something you cannot unsee!
I've been talking about how damsels in distress before aren't inherently bad, but it's kind of a repeating trend in this anime franchise that I can't ignore, especially when it comes to the leading ladies. Before I get into the real issues of the Synchro arc as it pertains to Yuzu, I want to take a look at her dueling record. Duels that have actual substance, Yuzu had about 7 to her name, with the last duel before the Synchro arc taking place at episode 40, her next duel takes place 29 episodes later, and after that, 8 more at episode 77. Now, how many episodes do you think Arc 5 has? 148.
I wanna die.
So, at this point, it should be pretty easy to see that there's a big issue here, because after episode 83, the last time Yuzu duels and has a minor duel with Sora, Yuzu essentially becomes a plot device and a damsel in distress for Yuya and the rest of the crew to save. Legit, I am not even kidding on that. And it's not like you didn't have a chance for Yuzu to duel and still cement herself as a duelist who can hold her own. I can think of at least 2 different times where she could have dueled, but for some reason or another, not really happened. The first is when Yuzu is transported into the fusion dimension in episode 103, where Yuzu is being chased by Academia's juvenile officers, but she doesn't get to a duel when a legacy character shows up.
If you want to duel, you'll duel me. You who?
Hi, Asuka. Ugh. It's not like Yuzu couldn't team up with you. You know, actually having a fun thing to do with legacy characters other than just having them eat up the screen time and plot and take away from the actual characters. Oh my, I feel like that's going to be a point later in the video. The other time is in episode 115 when the crew is on a pirate ship. Yes, I know. Another prominent character that I'll talk about soon, Serena, betrays the party and basically has Yuzu in a lock where she can be kidnapped. Again, my issue with this is you could have, I don't know, have Yuzu duel against Serena and have Yuzu lose and then get taken away. You know, at least have her put up a fight. This is even worse when you consider that action duels are a thing in this series, which means that the duelists have to be a lot more active to move around the dueling field and actually physically stronger than your average teenagers. I don't know, it just seems rather off-putting to me on that. Then, after that, Yuzu pretty much becomes a girl who's crying out for Yuya and was used as a way to motivate the main characters to save her, getting kidnapped, brainwashed, and, killed. Yeah, not kidding. Yuzu legitimately gets the fridge and fades from existence.
The reactor is approaching 60%, transferring the subject Zuzu to begin unification procedures.
What sucks is that there was potential here for Yuzu to grow and become more of a character. She's with the synchro version of Yuya, Yugo, so why not have her learn synchro summoning? It's the next natural step, especially since she wasn't really a match for Yuri, so why not try to do the same thing she did when she lost the first time? Actually get a teacher to teach her how to do the summoning. It'd be consistent with her already established character, especially since now she's aware that Duel Academy is after her, so why not have her continue the idea of training other forms of summoning so she can fight against the looming threat that is actively pursuing her. But nah, let's just waste our time on a tournament arc and then dedicate 6 episodes to Gladiator Beasts. Save that rant for later, manga. Save it for later. Yeah, wasted potential for a damsel in distress, which is a bit of a running theme in this video. I'd say get ready for a drinking game, but I don't want you guys to lose your livers. But aren't you going to talk about the manga version of Yuzu?
Why are we still here? Just to suffer? Every night.
Listen, unless someone wants to gift me $250 on Ko-Fi, I ain't touching that, not in this video, pal. So in the synopsis, I brought up that there were counterparts to Yuzu, and yeah, this next character is one of them. Meet Serena. She's the Fusion Dimension version of Yuzu.
We simply invaded the Xyz dimension to achieve our goal.
And funny enough, there's more similarities with Yuzu than just that. In fact, some of the same complaints I had with Yuzu are the same with Serena.
Oh shit, here we go again.
So what is her story? Serena is a member of the Duel Academia, training alongside other classmates under the idea they were battling other dimensions in honorable war. Yes. Really. And it's why she escapes from Duel Academy thinking that Professor Leo Akiba didn't consider her a strong duelist meant for the front lines.
Because that was the day I decided to make my big escape. The day I would join the rest of my classmates on the front line.
We've got a character who was effectively raised to become a soldier, thinking that what her classmates was doing was good and honorable, but is completely unaware of the pain that they are actually inflicting on other dimensions. Serena is a radicalized soldier, looking for the remnants of the Xyz dimension, just so she could prove to Leo Akiba that she is strong enough. And I think you got the grounds for another compelling female character, especially when she does meet up with Yuzu, who has heard stories of what happened in the Xyz dimension, where not only duelists were attacked, but also people who had no association with the card game and were innocent in anything. It's fascinating as a premise for a character to learn the truth and try to evolve from that. She also lacks social skills, so she's a bit blunt in that regard, and I kinda like that. And it does blow up in her face, too.
Go! I'm not going anywhere. If you think I'm gonna babysit instead of duel, then you should have hired another nanny.
Now, one thing to point out is that while Serena doesn't actually believe that her classmates are brutal monsters, she's not too hard-headed to at least not confirm it for herself. So, after an off-screen clothing switch with Yuzu, Serena actively tries to find a character named Shun, who was not only from the Xyz dimension, but his sister Ruri was also captured by Academia, and he's trying to fight the Fusion dimension to get her back. Well, Serena does find him, but... Seeing the cruelty of one of her fellow students, Sora, it does begin to open up Serena's eyes, especially considering that she was hunting Shun up until this point just so she could prove that she was a capable soldier, regardless of the consequences that were up there until this point. And by seeing what the Obelisk Force, Duel Academy's elite squad of duelists, well, the fact that Serena fights against them should be enough to tell that at the very least she doesn't approve of their actions. And through the Synchro arc, Serena does get what she's looking for. People who care about her and respect her as a duelist, treating her as an equal when she's with the team of Lancers. Sounds like a great character concept and such. So, how do they screw it up? Well...
Thanks for the escort to my new home, boys. When this wears off, you'll be sorry.
You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. This scene has Serena being drugged so she can be taken to the Synchro Arc's Big Bad to be used as a bargaining chip against the Fusion Dimension. Though to be more clear, before this, she was separated from the rest of the group when they were arrested and thrown in jail, which makes sense since the jail had a ton of guys in it, and it's only logical you separate the female prisoners from men for obvious reasons. But the issue is that Serena becomes wasted and has only one more duel, which is admittedly a fun duel against Yugo, against the Synchro Dimension version of Yuya, where she finally learns that dueling can be used for fun and not war. Hooray! However, after that, Serena also gets turned into a plot device, since because she was drugged, she can't get away from the guy who lost the duel before she got transported.
Selena, I may have lost, but I'm still carrying out my mission. You will return to Duel Academy, but I will not be able to protect you.
Barret, no.
Quit it! You can't send Selena back there!
Don't do it!
Time to go.
Which was stupid! What was the point of the duel if the guy lost, he was still going to get away with her? What the hell is this writing?
But wait! There's more!
And as I point out in the Yuzu section, Serena does come back, only she's brainwashed.
Looks like your brain's still bamboozled too!
So she's used to fight against her former allies with her personality being erased. Oh, and then she gets erased as well. And unlike Yuzu, who does come back at the end of the series, Serena and the other two Bracelet girls are essentially melded in with Yuzu.
And there is no sacrifice greater than someone else. No!
Listen, I like Serena as a character, and you could argue that her character arc had run its course. That's fair enough, I suppose, but considering the bloated mess that was the Synchro arc, especially since the writers did whatever they could to separate the cast so we couldn't actually get interactions between them all, I'm sorry, but even though I was incredibly charitable to her development just to see her sidelined and brainwashed and killed off, I'm kinda pissed off about this. You have a girl raised in a military duel academy who finds herself turning against said school in an interdimensional war. And that's a fascinating character with tons of potential that was on the road to making a great character. Might as well throw her in the garbage bin then. I am sure you guys are curious as to why I'm putting these two. The other two Bracelet girls, Rin and Ruri, who basically come from the Synchro and Xyz dimensions respectively, together in the same segment.
You mean Shay's sister? She's cute. I guess she got the good genes.
It's because they both have the same major issue, and that is they are both used as plot devices without any actual development. How they were used was done differently though. Kinda. You see, both were kidnapped for the series proper, obviously by the Fusion Dimension, and they both act as motivation for the male characters, specifically Yugo for Rin, and for Ruri you had her foster brother Shun, and the fusion version of Yuya, Yuto after her. Rin was the childhood friend of Yugo, and the two of them were wanting to get into the Friendship Cup of the Synchro Dimension, with the two of them inspired by Jack Atlas. Yes, the same Jack Atlas. And the two of them were so motivated they worked hard on their own D-Wheel since because they were born in the slums they couldn't afford one. This was their chance to get out of the poor conditions that they grew up in. So through hard work, they managed to make the D-Wheel that Yugo uses throughout the series. Meanwhile, Ruri, Shun, and Yuto were all classmates in Heartland Duel School, and even hinted that Ruri and Yuto were in a relationship. That sounds nice, and there are different setups for the characters, but they go down the same path, where the two get kidnapped by Yuri and brought to the Fusion Dimension, where the two were promptly brainwashed. Again. Look, I understand that some people will think I'm being overtly harsh with my criticisms of the writing of these female characters. It wouldn't be the first time, even to the point where some people think I'm blatantly ignoring the flaws of the male characters, which... no. I am literally focusing on the female writing for this series, but I am well aware of the issues with Yu-Gi-Oh's writing as a whole, including for its male characters. And trust me, I've got issues with Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5's use of its male characters. I've discussed it in a very prominent video. But for me, when there are continuous trends in the series, that deserves to be pointed out and critiqued, especially when it happens multiple times in the same series, and for the characters that just so happen to be used as props for the male characters. And what's worse is that unlike Yuzu or Serena, these two didn't get a chance to actually develop or establish themselves before they were used to fight against the ones they care about. And like Serena, they essentially die and become a part of Yuzu too, which is really troubling when you consider that they are vital to the interconnectivity of the dimensions, with Rin becoming the worst victim in this, since the only connection she even has is with Yugo. It's not like you couldn't have expanded upon this. Hell, as much as it makes me want to vomit up saying his name, Crow could have been used in this regard. Yes, Crow is in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, and if you wanted to make things make sense, you could have had him be a bigger brother character to both Yugo and Rin. After all, they're all orphans in this iteration. Not only would you actually have some establishment with a legacy character, but you'd also set up another character for Rin to actually have a connection with and raise the stakes to. And it's not like this hasn't already been done in the anime. Kaito from Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal gets brought back as well and is acted as a rival for Shun, Ruri's brother. So why couldn't we have another legacy character who could have had a much deeper connection? Though I suppose you could do the same thing with Jack Atlas, and it probably would have been a lot more impactful if he had a personal connection with Yugo and Rin. Maybe even he was a childhood friend who grew up in the slums with them, but managed to pull himself out by the bootstraps and make his own D-Will, and acted as a beacon of hope for the two. It would also give Jack or Crow a much stronger motivation to help find their friend Rin, who would then be traveling to the fusion dimension to get her back. Again, this is just spitballing some ideas here to how to make the series a bit more cohesive and such. I personally would have had it while Rin and Ruri were captured. Thanks to the power of their bracelets, they would actually have managed to escape, but disappear into other dimensions without a means of traveling back. Like, shuffle the girls up! Anything to allow Rin and Ruri a chance to actually showcase their characters and adapt to new situations and environments. You could still have the plot of the two of them being rescued by the guys, but just don't lock them up in literal towers, which, yes, the anime does do that.
Is that really you, Kite? I can't believe it.
Come on. Shay's waiting for you.
Kite, thank you.
What's up?
Yugo?
Look, I can spend the rest of the time of this video complaining about the lost potential of these two characters, but I'd rather spare myself the headache and actually get to talking about other characters, which I actually have some positive things to say about. You know, it's not often I actually talk about a mother character on the channel, let alone Yu-Gi-Oh! There's just 3 other mothers I can think of in this series. The first being Yugi's mother, who was phased out of the actual anime. The second being Yusei Fudo's mom, who died. And finally Yuma's mother from Zexal, who was absent for most of the series. That's not actually the case with Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. Well, kinda. It gets complicated. But we have Yuya's mother, Yoko Sakaki, and damn, girl! And it's not creepy to have these feelings because she's an adult. She's 34. And she's actually a pretty decent character too. Hot damn, the total package for me, I guess. So, why is she a good character? While she isn't a main character, she certainly is a great support character, trying to at least be a good mother to Yuya, making sure that he's got a good meal, and is often the one to give Yuya advice when he needs it. Not to mention, we get an actual backstory for her. Turns out that she used to be a punk rock biker babe who was in a gang, but when she met Yuya's father Yusho,
your friend is safe and sound. I hope you see, sometimes a smile is the simplest solution.
That man, the one who appeared from nowhere and saved my friend, that man was your father.
well, things turned around and she became a pretty good wife and a mother afterwards. Even to the point where she'll duel a lesson into her son's head that he should always remember what real dueling is about, regardless of the stakes. I don't have that many complaints about Yoko. She's a good support character. If there was one issue I do have, it's later revealed she's not actually Yuya's mother. It was a result of the 4 dimensions breaking apart, and he just so happened to, for some reason, pop up in Yoko and Yusho's lives, and they thought he was their son. Yeah, I ain't got no clue how that worked out.
I hope to God you're adopted.
One character I didn't mention by name, but brought up as a means for user development, is Masumi. She's a Leo Dual School student, and the opponent who defeated Yuzu during the Yusho Dual School matches. I can say I also love her deck, since Gem Knights were a very cool and fan-fave deck back in the day before everything got so crazy. Masumi's brash, she's no nonsense, and she's actually pretty motivated. You see, after the duel at Yusho School, one of Leo School's professors, Professor Marco, went missing. Professor Marco was essentially Matsumi's favorite teacher who taught her how to fusion summon. Turns out Marco was turned into a card by an Xyz Dimension duelist, specifically Shun. So Masumi takes it upon herself to do her own investigation, along with 2 other LDS students, where she is able to find Shun and challenge him. Though the three did lose to him, so there's that. But that's fine. It really made Masumi into a very fun character. Again, she has her own goals, her own story, and actually did something about it. And with the exception of winning the duel, she was pretty successful in her goal of finding the culprit. Though after that happens...
What I requested? Yes. The procedure we performed was a complete success. Those three won't remember who Shay is or anything that he did.
Which is concerning that Leo Duel School has the ability to erase people's memories and then rewrite them. With the exception of this scene...
Julia, I know you don't like me and all, but I gotta warn you. There's this guy named Shay who's infiltrated LID's tournament team.
Shay's been at the Institute all year. He was in my advanced dueling linguistics class last semester.
This never gets brought up again. Okay, so let's just ignore the blatant mind manipulation here. They're the good guys, so it's okay if they do that. But the bigger issue is that after the second duel with Yuzu, where Masumi loses and establishes a friendship with Yuzu by giving her a card, Masumi just falls off the plot. Which sucks because, again, there was something there that was established. That the Leo Duel School was going to train more Lancers, the defenders of the standard dimension. And Masumi, along with another LDS student, were going to join in that training, especially one of their friends was transformed into a card by Duel Academia. Well, to be specific, it was Serena who did that, but you get the point.
I'm ready too.
You on board, Kit?
You better believe it, Julia.
Yeah, that never happens actually. So these two characters who are part of the main story in a sense, as well as having connections to the main characters, the guy right there basically trained another character how to use synchro summoning, they just go poof out of the plot. They don't show up until the finale and they don't even speak. So instead of finding something for them to do and possibly help out later in the plot, the writers just elect to say, "Goodbye, losers!" To point out, this is a major issue with the writing of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, and it does affect male characters as well. But I'm using Masumi as an example of this since she was pivotal in Yuzu's development, and it just seems so wasteful to have a character that was so important at the beginning be cast aside. You know, a thing that a lot of the girls have had to deal with in this entire show. Now, I could bring up some of the more tertiary ladies of this series, like Miero or Asuka Tenjoin, but there's hardly any substance to them, and they ultimately don't matter to the plot of the story. And Rei? You know, Leo Akaba's daughter? Oh boy, there's none of liquor in the world for me to open up that Pandora's box for this video and get out with my sanity. Plus, we're on page 19 of this monster of a script, and I kinda just want to get this part out of the way since it's important to discuss why not only the ladies of Arc 5, but pretty much everyone who wasn't Yuya Sakaki got shafted in this series. And even then, he has his issues as a protagonist.
On ice, Venom Dragon! Let's get toxic!
It's no secret that I've expressed this opinion, but here we go one more time. Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5's biggest issues were its pacing and its extremely bloated cast, not helped by the fact that there were legacy characters pepper-inned that took away the screen time from the original cast. If you look online, you'll see a ton of complaints about the Synchro arc, and for good reason. That arc is filled to the brim with issues, the first being that most of the cast gets separated. Sure, it starts off with them being in groups, so you can still have some fun character interactions between them, but when the tournament arc starts, yes. Arc 5 had another tournament arc, even though the last arc ended with a tournament too. Anyway, when that tournament started, the writers literally had each and every character locked away in their own rooms. And oh boy, that's always fun, right? Who wants to see characters actually interacting with each other and bonding over things?
And like a true hero, he keeps his identity secret. Oh man, I wish I was his sidekick, and we could sidekick Hanoi's derrieres!
Have fun.
Especially when it comes off as entirely unnecessary to have a tournament like this. Especially, and I know this is probably going to be a controversial opinion, I actually like the beginning of the Synchro arc, since it had a good point about the fundamental aspects of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, but also shown from an outsider's perspective about the slums, the tops, and the classism between them. And because we spend how many episodes in the Synchro arc? 55 episodes. That doesn't sound too bad, but then you remember after that, there's only 48 episodes left, and most of that is divided between the XC's dimension, the Fusion dimension, the Zark arc, and the last 7 episodes were dedicated to an epilogue. That seems a bit too much clutter and unfairness to one dimension. Not to mention there were multiple duels that took multiple episodes to complete. But let's focus on the legacy characters now. Aside from stealing precious time from the Arc 5 cast original, the show doesn't even develop them as characters. Edo and Kite, despite being fan-favorite characters, were completely wasted. Crow stole moments that should have gone to the original Arc 5 crew. He got turned into a card, and for some reason he came back from that, which, by the by, really undercuts the impact of Crow being killed, essentially. Asuka was made a fodder for Yuri, who didn't even use his actual deck, but used, and I'm not kidding, the Ancient Gear structure deck. Literally, the only legacy character that actually worked was Jack Atlas, the GOAT.
Today is a great day. The only way it could have been better is if I had won. But it wasn't meant to be.
And frankly speaking, it's quite a bit of a wasted opportunity. Since these characters never interacted with each other, with the exception of them being in their respective series, you could have done things that weren't really possible before then. Like having a duel between Edo Phoenix and Kaito, or having Crow face off against Asuka. Dream matches that people wish they could have actually seen in the anime, and it gets wasted. I know I kinda devolved into a more generalized rant of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, but the point still stands here and can easily be traced to why so many of the lady characters got treated so badly. Is because Arc 5 was trying to do so much, but left so much on the table and let it get rotten. I do like Arc 5, but there's just so much holding it back that it makes it hard for me to forgive the issues that it has. And these issues can easily be applied to all the characters, including the girls. Too many characters in the show, most of the cast didn't get proper closure, so everything was imbalanced. Serena shouldn't have been sent back to Academia, but still worked with the rest of the cast so they could actually visit the Xyz dimension and see what Academia actually did to the place, giving Serena the final push to realize, oh crap, I'm with jackasses.
So this is what being a loser feels like.
Hell, still with Serena, have her and Asuka have a connection of some sort. Make Asuka out to be a student teacher who abandoned the Academia after seeing what happened, and Serena has resentment for her leaving her in this place. Maybe make her her only friend that she ever had. There's a ton you can do to make this work, but it really feels like the writers just did the bare minimum and didn't actually want to consider the true potential that could have been done with this show. And I get it. This is an anime that's almost a decade old at this point, that was geared toward guys and selling cards to people, and the thought of this actually being fixed is impossible since the direction of that is current Yu-Gi-Oh! It's likely we'll never get to see these characters in actual manner outside of Duel Links, which sucks. It really, really sucks. Because regardless of my issues with the ladies of this show and their writing, they're honestly some of the best characters that Yu-Gi-Oh! Can have. Yuzu and Serena especially, since they were so outside the mold of female leads in this series. But they were just smashed into the small mold of the dreaded damsel in distress. I don't know. I made this series since I do have legitimate issues with Yu-Gi-Oh!'s writing, especially with its female characters. And we're nearing the end of this series as well, with the next one being focused on Vrains. I don't really have any plans on covering the Severance or Go Rush series, but if this and the Vrains video do well enough, I might be willing to change my mind on it. In any case, I'm Manga Kamen, thanks for watching, and if you want to see the Vrains Girls video soon, consider leaving a like and a comment. We get 5,000 likes and I'll focus on that next. Till next time, my friends, remember to swing into action. Bye bye.